Friends, good morning to all. Welcome to the webinar on direct tax organized by AIFTP West Zone. And this is the second lecture in the series. The topic is very interesting, which is affecting all of us, and that is natural justice with relation to income tax and RITs. That is the thing which we all face in day in and day out. Today, we are lucky to have past president of AIFTP and a senior advocate, Dr. K. Shivram, as the chairman. And we are so lucky to have the young and dynamic advocate Manish Desai as a speaker with us. So without wasting any time, I would now request our West Zone chairman, Bhaskar Bhai Patel, to deliver his welcome note, please. Bhaskar Bhai.
Yes, friend. Good morning, all of you. Our National President, Srimati Nikita Ben Badeka, Secretary General Samir Jani, all the past presidents of our AIFTP, all the office bearers of AIFTP West Zone, and today's session chairman, Dr. K. Shivram, and speaker, Mr. Manish Desai, who is advocate practicing before Gujarat High Court. After talk with Dr. Shivram, he suggested me, and I have told him that whether I can go with Mr. Manish Desai. Okay. He is very good, and he is going to deliver a good presentation with us. Then after I contacted Mr. Manish Desai, and he readily accepted our invitation. Dr. Shivram is with us since long back in our AIFTP, being a past president also. So he is very kind enough with us at every point of time. So I welcome all of you in this webinar, and we take opportunity to learn something on the topic, that is principle of natural justice as applicable to tax proceedings and writ petition under taxation. Thanks. Welcome again.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request Advocate Parth Badeka from Mumbai, AIFTP West Zone committee member, to introduce our learned speaker, Dr. K. Shivram. Parthji.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure for me to introduce our legal luminary, Dr. K. Shivram, Senior Advocate. Dr. K. Shivram is a designated Senior Advocate from the Bombay High Court. He is practicing as a counsel before the Bombay High Court Income Tax Appellate Tribunal since about 1978. He is the President of the Chamber of Tax Consultants, Mumbai. He is the President of AIFTP from 2003 up to 2006. He is the past President of the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal Bar Association from 2011 to 2012. He is a former editor of Income Tax Review, published by the Chamber of Tax Consultants from 1992 to 2001. He's been the chief editor of AIFTP Journal since 1994 up to 2018. He's a member of the Regional Direct Tax Advisory Committee by the Government of India since 1992 to 1996. Apart from that, he has been instrumental in holding the moot court competition, the national moot court competitions for about 10 years with AIFTP along with Income Tax Tribunal Bar Association. And Shivram sir and his team have been instrumental in providing regular updates on the Income Tax Online and the AIFTP Online Journal. So with that, I welcome Dr. K. Shivram, Senior Advocate, and I request him to enlighten our minds with his knowledge. And I welcome him again. I hope I invite everyone to give a round of applause to welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request Nigam Bhai Shah from Ahmedabad, Managing Committee member of AIFTP West Zone, to introduce our today's learned speaker. Nigamji.
Thank you very much. First of all, I am very much thankful to National President and West Zone Chairman and all dignitaries of the association. Now, friends, we have Mr. Manish Desai, who is an eminent personality and well-known personality amongst in Ahmedabad or Gujarat as far as indirect tax is concerned. Now, Mr. Manish is situated in Ahmedabad at Mondelez Height, very well-known area as a SG Highway satellite. He is become LLB and practicing as an advocate. Friends, as far as professional experience is concerned, successful argued numerous complex matter relating to income tax before Honorable High Court, Income Tax Tribunal, and also Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. Presently, practicing as an advocate before Gujarat High Court, ITAT, and as well as Income Tax Appeals. Not only this, he is also practicing before Supreme Court also. Apart from his professional activities, about his other activities, he has won all Gujarat Moot Court competition while pursuing law study in L.S. Shah College. Not only this, after this, he has represented Gujarat University in All India Moot Court competition at national level. He is also contributing articles for various journals on direct taxes. A regular speaker at various conferences, seminars, and meetings of various professional bodies on issue of field of direct taxes. He is also past president of Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, Bar Association, Ahmedabad. Moreover, he has played various sports like football, basketball, cricket, badminton, etc. and has represented himself sports state level and district level during school and college life. Now, with this, I am very much happy on behalf of AIFTP to present Mr. Manish Ji before us. Thank you very much. Over to Hoyevar.
Thank you very much, Nigamji. Now I would like to request our today's session chairman, Senior Advocate Dr. K. Shivram, to give his opening comments, please. Sir, you need to unmute yourself. Yes, sir. You are unmuted. Again, sir, you. Just a minute. Madam, I am doing this.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Shivram, sir, you are now audible.
No. Allowed to share the screen? No.
Yeah, yes, sir, you can.
No? Okay, thank you. No, it is not coming, I think. Okay. Very good.
Just a minute, sir.
Okay.
You have to
Sir,
give
now
a-
you can. Yes, sir, now you can. There was some technical issue.
Okay, thank you. So good morning to all the participants.
Good morning.
And you know that we are happy that the National President Nikita Badeka is here, and past President Nankani is there. I think Samir Jani, I could not see him, but he is there, I think, somewhere. And other past president, I don't know. In fact, you know that they wanted to, my bad that I told him, say only the senior advocate that is more than sufficient. Till I think they will get it from the AFTP and much more than what is required. Let me share that when the Bhaskar Patel wanted to, to have some discussion on the issues, and in fact, when he told that we will have the, advocate from Ahmedabad and the chairman from Mumbai. So then immediately, of course, the thought come to both of us, Mr. Bhaskar Patel and me, Manish is the right person. So that is why we all agreed that Manisha will be the leading the today's discussion. I will be only sharing the session. We only have to introduce some of the issues, that's all. Otherwise, entire proceeding will be conducted by Mr. Manisha. Of course, this matter is already read by the one of the organizer. But let me share with I had occasion to witness Mr. Manish Shah. Manish Shah, when he had come to Mumbai to argue some of the very important matters. So, and not only that, I think I had occasion to share or to interact with him when he addressed our seminar at AFTP and also Ahmedabad Association is concerned. I think one important issue I thought of sharing with you is son of late Sri J.P. Shah. He is one of the finest person. In fact, he used to come to Mumbai and he used to chit chat with us in our bar association, and then he used to share his, that old memories when he used to have in Mumbai. So that is a great experience. Therefore, in fact, we all miss him. That is the only, I am feeling very sorry. We are not able to, and his sweet memories always with us. Now, with this background, we thought of sharing, some important issues. There are two subjects we are going to discuss. One is on natural justice, another is on the writs. As regard natural justice is concerned, one will find, that AFTP come out with the publication Interpretation Tax Institute. There we will having the separate chapter on the natural justice. Those who are having the book, they may read all important issues has been discussed in that is concerned. Now, one more thing is that, first of all, one important is Article 265 of the Constitution of India. That what it says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of the law. And that there is also circular of the board 14 of dated 11/4/1955. Most of you must have read it. And this circular is referred in the judgment which I referred it over there, that is the 120, that the 128 ITR, that is Gujarat, then that Kerala, and also Bombay 150 ITR. Why I'm referring for this, all these where the reference is made of the circular, and what the circular says that whenever certain claim is not made by the SSC, it is the duty of the assessing officer to that they allow the claim, though he has not made any claim. Though it is referred in number of judgment, it has not been followed. That is what we find. I don't know now. The electronically all the return has been processed. Assuming that you are entitled, there may not be any scope for to give the certain relief to you, though you not claim. This is one point I think possibly we may have to consider. We may have to request the severity to consider this. Interestingly, in fact our national president also present when that chairman of severity attended the program of that organized by the ITAT on the Sadhguru. In fact, one of the questions raised by the chairman of CTT is how to reduce the tax trust deficit between the taxpayer and the taxpayer. In fact, this is one of the questions. In fact, Sadhguru answered that abolish the income tax. But according to me, abolishing income tax is not the solution. What they if at all that the chairman should ask the tax professionals how we can build it correctly. There you could have implied to him stating that you adopt the tax culture instead of the tax collection. In fact, and why I'm referring for this reason, that the chairman of CBDT, when he came to the ITAT for address on the Samadhan scheme, there that lot of questions have been raised, and that was somewhere in the month of April. And then he told us that all right, give us your all suggestions, we will come out with the circular. Unfortunately, till today, that no circular has come. And one more thing is that when the finance ministry on 13th May has given the economy, how to boost the economy, there we extended the date for Viva Service scheme also up to 31st December 2020. Unfortunately, though so many months are over, there is no clarification and no circular, not even any statement from the chairman of severity. Now the issue comes, many times we have been asked the question in the ITAT online, we answered about more than 300 questions on Viva Service scheme. Whether is it extended up to December or not. Why I'm raising this issue is very simple reason. Now that except Mumbai, in many parts of the country, the High Court started functioning. We thought for Mr. Manish and also the Samit Jani and the national president, if we don't get any response from within the reasonable time, let us say within 7 to 8 days or within 10 days. Is it possible to file PIL? Possibly, no. I think we should try. Manish, you should take the lead. Possible file it in Gujarat. Samir Jani will help you. And if not Gujarat, somewhere else we should try. And at least some clarification will get it. And this will help, I think, all the professionals across the country. Let them give whatever they want to give the reply, extend up to December, July, whatever it may be. Some clarification will come. This will go a long way. This is a part of your natural justice and also writ petition. That's the reason I thought of referring this as regard this issue is concerned. Now, as regard natural justice is concerned, we'll find that is violative of the Article 14 of the Constitution. We will having that as back at 26 ITR 775 Tarakeshwar Cotton old judgment. Then we are having the Sriram Durga Prasad 176 at 169. Then we are having Menaka, that is in the constitutional law, that is reported in the AIR. I have given the citation over here. Then we'll also find, like the Isanchan Chellaram, that is well-known judgment 125. Authority cannot use the statement without gain opportunity. Then in GP Gautam 199 ITR 530, though there is no provision under the Act, still you have to give the opportunity to us, otherwise it will violate you. That is what the Supreme Court laid down. And Sona Builders, 259 ITR, 197. Notice was given only 3 days. Ultimately, matter went up to High Court with the SSC laws. Supreme Court said that 3 days is, how can I say, expect the SSC to give the proper reply. And the entire thing was quashed, and the department argued that matter should go back. High Court said nothing. Supreme Court said nothing going back. So we will quash the entire, that is how the entire thing was quashed. Like similarly, 300 ITR. And then Andaman, that is very important judgment. If they are not given the opportunity to cause examination, entire edition was quashed. And HR Mehta Bombay High Court, even CTET edition was that what they are not given the opportunity, that was caused. And Supreme Court 408 ADR, that is also on that what are the evidence or they use it. If you don't give it, entire thing will be quashed. Now for today's discussion, we can divide our subject natural justice connected with the appellate tribunal, commissioner, state appeal, and assessing officer. Manish, is it from that we'll go or what? Yeah, you can go your own way, but I thought, like appellate tribunal, we can discuss something, commissioner, we can discuss, and state appeal, assessing officer. And there are writ also we can discuss connected with ITAT, say commissioner, state appeal, and assessing officer. Now the ITAT is concerned, natural justice, we will find the order has to be reasoned order. Given the judgment of the 409 ATR and Bombay High Court, the order is not reasoned order, liable to be quashed, or at least it will be set aside. And then we'll find the good number of judgment. Suppose many times we'll find before the ITAT, the court certain judgment is not referred by the tribunal. The Bombay High Court is consistent taking the view, if you quote certain judgment and then if they are not referring it, then you are liable to, you can go under rectification, and if they don't rectify it, you can come back to us, and then they set aside the order of the tribunal. Similarly, relying upon the case laws, like Bhavya construction, what matter, the one member relied upon about entire Chaturvedi and Pitacharya, they copied the entire, about 300, some chapter they copied, put it in the order. When the miscellaneous put it, they said, not committed anything. Ultimately, matter went to the High Court. High Court said, I cannot do all like this. If at all you want to rely, give an opportunity to that, and thereafter it will be, that is how the Bombay High Court taken the stand. Similarly, some judgment not referred will also have Gujarat High Court. These are all the case laws. Like suppose in the HDFC Bank, and HDFC Bank, the decision cited SS's own case, cited and not dealt with that. And ultimately, Bombay High Court said that you are bound to follow, then they question. Similarly, the like commissioner is concerned, they are also principle the same. 264, if the order is not speaking, then liable to be quashed. Then you will also find the commissioner's appeal. You will find, I thought referring only for this reason, you will find one judgment of your Surat tribunal. That is, they reported in the TTJ. There, that what the Surat Tribunal taken the view that following the Menaka Gandhi also they referred, then they also referred the judgment of the, like the other judgment. Then they held it that the order is liable to, tribunal said that ex parte order, then liable to be quashed. Now, why I'm referring this, the Commissioner's appeal is concerned, that the many times you must have come across, like the judgment, the CAT appeal is relying upon or the deciding case is not attending, then he may decide ex parte. In fact, Bombay High Court says he cannot decide ex parte at all. Assuming nobody is appearing, still he has to decide on the merit. You can find one of judgment is DK Gear, where SSC wanted to withdraw. I don't want to press. The CAT appeal said dismiss the appeal, not present. But the matter came to tribunal. Tribunal relying upon the Bombay High Court at 297 that CTR says that no, assuming SSC makes the application, you don't want to press, still he has to decide on the merit. This is what the would CAT appeal is concerned. Then the Ramachandran, where when the appeal is pending for CAT appeal, that the no prosecution is possible. That is what the and the CAT appeal also bound to follow the judicial high court. If it doesn't follow, Kamalachi Finance Mill says that the may amount to contempt. Then assessment is concerned, the 1 or 2 judgment, natural justice that is there. Then specific request. This is one found in the GST. When the course of assessment, SSC asked me give me personal hearing. They are not given personal hearing at all. The assessing office passed the order, and it was the High Court set aside the order, stating that you have to give it. Like that, this is some of judgment on this. Even assessing officer has to pass the order. Writ, I will refer only 2, 3. There are 5 types of writ, and that Manish is going to discuss in detail. I thought referring only one issue, like especially in Mumbai. Again, the ITAT, miscellaneous rejected. We cannot file appeal. We have to go by writ only. In Gujarat, I am not sure what is the position. Karnataka and other place, no, you can go in appeal. But that is the reason there are some judgment. Amit, he said that again 254.2, you cannot go under the writ, but you have to go writ only, then you cannot file appeal. This is one judgment of 170 DTR. At least I thought referring for this reason. Normally, on the writ, the right of habeas corpus. That is only you can suppose the person is get behind the bar. We can go under the court and you can ask them to. But here is the case where you will find the SSC not paid the tax. Then he have put behind the bar. They went to the tribunal. The tribunal said that no, now we are going to give the stay. If we asked them to pay the payment, they have given the stay. But unfortunately, in spite of giving the stay, the department not released him at all. Then they went by habeas corpus to the, like the Punjab and Haryana High Court, asked them to put it before the court. But unfortunately, before that the matter came, they released him. Therefore, that court had no occasion to discuss this. That is the reason. This is only one judgment you will find where habeas corpus has been used, even for the tax proceeding here. This is a few thought I thought of sharing with you. I think Manish will take it over from here, and thereafter some question and answer come. I think we look at that time. Thank you very much. This is for, in fact, our chairman told me I should speak. I think 15 to 20 minutes. I think I completed within the 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. K. Sivaram, sir. Now, I would request our speaker of today, Manish J. sir, to take over the floor, please. Thank you very much, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I must congratulate the organizers for picking up such a wonderful topic. And why do I say wonderful? Because as Mr. Sivaram just mentioned, that you will find that these topics, both of them, are actually interwoven. In fact, I'll be failing in my duties if I do not acknowledge the presence of Nankani ji, Nikita ji, Mr. Samir Jani, Bhaskar Patel. But before anything, I must mention the kind of relation that I enjoy and I'm fortunate to have with Mr. Sivaram. He did mention that he has been chairing certain sessions where I've been a speaker. It is always a great pleasure to have someone so learned, because you are rest assured that if you miss out on something, the cushioning will be done by Mr. Sivaram. Secondly, it reminds me of an incident when I was the president of the ITAT, maybe one of the youngest presidents of the ITAT in Ahmedabad. And we were faced with a very, very difficult situation whereby, Mr. Shivram will recollect, we had to take some difficult decisions. Our bar was very supportive of my stand. They all had a unanimous stand that we have to take this decision. And we did take that difficult decision, which I would not like to mention over here as to what it was. But the first person to give me a call from anywhere outside was Mr. Shivram. And I still remember the words that he mentioned, that you are the chip of the old block. And if I dare say, you probably are more bolder than your father. That's what he had mentioned. And I take those words ahead, and I've tried to see that I practice in the same fashion. Thank you so much, Mr. Shivram. I don't know, these kind of words told to any junior sometimes really makes him sail through. Thank you so much for that support. It must be about 10-15 years back. Now, coming to the subject per se, before we go to the subject, it is always very interesting to dig out onto the history. When I went to the history, I found 2 or 3 very interesting incidents as far as natural justice is concerned. First, that came to mind was, this is not a subject which is frequently debated or discussed, but it is something which is required to be kept in mind by all judges as well as participating people as far as litigation is concerned. It has come, in fact, from the general law, the common law which we get from England. So it is from the banks of River Thames to the banks of Ganga. That is where it has been imported from. And all of us are aware of the kind of influence that we enjoy of the British law on the laws in India. All of us have heard the name Magna Carta. But what does it signify? What was Magna Carta? Magna Carta was the great charter of freedom. It came in 1215 BC, and we are enjoying today the 800th birthday, in fact, to be precise, 805th birthday, because it was in June 1215 that it was given. So imagine the charter, which is such a celebrated charter even today. In fact, it is brought out in the British Library once in a while to show as to what the charter is. And they're very proud about it. In fact, the American Constitution is also very proud about it. But an interesting fact, when I've digged a little deep into it, it's a charter which is written in Latin, not in English. This is just for the facts to be shared. Coming to the topic of natural justice, principles of natural justice reminds me of 2 incidents. The first talks about the kind of bias. And a judge must never be biased, nor must he look to be biased. And that is the reason his entire endeavor is to see to it that he must not be looking at an interested party or seem to be an interested party. One incident which came to my reading was that incident which happened in the US Supreme Court, where 9 judges were sitting over a company matter. And the ladyship, Miss Justice Sandra Connor, she decided to recuse herself from the matter. Obviously, the rest of the 8 judges inquired as to what was wrong. Why was she recusing her? She was a very reputed judge and she was required to be there in the committee, in the sitting. She said, my husband is a shareholder of the company that we are dealing with. I'm sure all the 8 judges would have said that we are sure about your objectivity. It is not required to be done so, but her reply was very nice. I must even avoid unconscious bias. The parties must feel that I am not biased. And that is the reason I must be permitted to recuse, and she recused. And this is a very often quoted incident which happened. The second concept of natural justice talks about the concept of audi alterum partem, that no one should be convicted without a hearing. Now, once again, what is the greatest historic simile that you can give about this? The Greek mythology has a fantastic incident. Prometheus is a very, very interesting character in the Greek history. He was a trickster. He would go on tricking people. And that is what the entire Greek mythology on the chapter of Prometheus is all about. But an incident is very interesting. Prometheus is the one who brought fire to earth. He stole fire from the gods of Olympus and brought it to earth and gave it to the humans. In fact, he's also credited the fact of creating humans from clay and gave it to the humans. The fire was given. Zeus, who was the chief god, came to know about this, and he convicted Prometheus. What did he do? He chained Prometheus to the rocks and asked and ordered his eagles to go and eat his liver every day. Now, why every day? Because Prometheus was immortal. So that is the reason he had ordered his eagles to go and eat his liver every day, which would grow back overnight, and the next day the eagles would go and eat it again. But the interesting part comes now. After he has sentenced Prometheus, and Zeus was sitting in his kingdom, the court, a shining figure one day appeared. And Zeus obviously asked in his majestic way, "Who are you?" And the figure said, "I'm truth and justice." And he inquired, "What brings you to my court?" And the reply is very legendary. He says, Truth and Justice says, "You have convicted Prometheus, but you did not give him a right of hearing before you convicted him. And though you are the chief god, you will be dethroned for one day for not following the principles of natural justice of giving him a hearing." And that is how the great god Zeus was dethroned for one day. Now, this is the level what even history has put the principles of natural justice at. And this is what, lays down the foundation of the principles of natural justice. Now, what makes principle of natural justice important to people like us dealing on the taxation side is the fact that we, day in and day out, as far as appearing before the assessing officer, as well as appearing before the CIT appeals, and to an extent appearing before the tribunal, deal with the executive very regularly. Now, the difference between the attitude of the executive as well as the judiciary is way and poles apart. Now, why do I say so? Let us take an example. The executive, our friends who appear before the assessing officer on the original side pretty regularly tell me that when the matter comes to us, that the officer as well as the CIT would always tell them to drop the technical point that has been taken and go to the merits. Now, the supreme example of it is when you have challenged 148 and you have also simultaneously challenged the proceedings on merits. An assessing officer obviously has decided against you, you go to the CIT appeals. Numerable times, speaking for myself also, sometimes when in a serious matter I'm supposed to go to the CIT appeals, an indication would come or the reluctance would be very, very apparent that kindly go to the merits. We do not want to talk about the technical issue. Now, why this is so? This is so because they are trained to see that the result is focused upon. What is their job is to collect the taxes. If there is merits, leave it apart, but not on technicalities. Why? Because the solemn idea is that it should not be defeated on technicalities, so the concentration on technicalities is not there. While exactly the opposite, the intention might be great. What is the intention? To collect the right taxes is the intention. But when you go to the court is trained to look at things very differently. The court also looks at how things are done. It is not only the end justice what is important, the end is not important, but the process is also as important. That is what the court looks at. So let us take an example of 148, how the court will look at it. Though the pious intention is of collecting the taxes, but say for example, the notice is not good, or reasons are not recorded properly, though the intention remains pious of collecting the taxes, on facts, the fact is that yes, the taxes have gone scot-free, but then too, if these lacunas are there, then the court will strike it down. Now, that is the difference between the executive and the judiciary or the courts. Now, that is where in between comes the principles of natural justice. And that is where there is a lot of infringement of the principles of natural justice, which we have to take into consideration for the purpose of challenging in the courts of law. Because if the principles of natural justice are not followed, then the order becomes bad, as my chairman, Mr. Shivram, has mentioned. And this is something that has to be looked at from a very minute angle. And I would request all the entire taxing fraternity which is present today over here to look at your orders from that angle. So many times you do present so many things, whether they have been dealt with or not, whether the notice was proper or not, whether the reasons recorded are proper or not, whether you've been given a right of hearing according to the requirements or not. All this becomes very, very important. Now, there are two concepts, as I mentioned: the principle of bias, that is the doctrine of bias, and audi alteram partem. To hear the other side, nobody will be condemned unheard. These are the two concepts. Now, there are certain general concepts before we go to specifics. The general concept is, the first one which I wanted to just bring it to your notice is, principle of natural justice applies even where there are no expressly provided. Now, what does this mean? Does it become a necessity that in every provision the concept of natural justice has to be provided? The answer is an emphatic no by the courts. It is to be read into the provision unless it is specifically kept aside by the statute. So the presumption has to be that the concepts of natural justice are there. A right of hearing, even it is not specified, has to be given. Notice, though specified in the though not specified in the section, has to be given. Reasons, though not specified to be recorded in a given situation, have to be recorded. So because these are principles of natural justice, they are not required to be specified. It is presumed that the authorities will follow the principles of natural justice. Mr. Shivram did mention there are 2 or 3 decisions, which I believe out of them 1 or 2 were mentioned. The Calcutta High Court decision in 236 ITR 671, Peerless General Finance, which says that principles of natural justice are to be read into the section. I will request all of you not to go on noting these things. I will be sending all the citations after the talk within about a week or so to the concerned persons whose email will be sent to me. So kindly, we have done the difficult work. Mr. Shivranand has done the difficult work of giving you a paper over there. I have done a little difficult work. Relax and enjoy your Sunday morning. In Ahmedabad, it's a pretty wet morning today. It's been raining throughout the night. I don't know about the rest of the places, but being a Sunday, please take it easy. The second decision was 300 ITR 403 Sahara, which was mentioned by Mr. Shivram. And the lead decision where this concept was brought in, that it is to be read into a provision, is Menaka Gandhi, AIR 1978 Supreme Court 597, specifically at 624 in the head notes. That was also mentioned in the note that was reflected on the screen. There was a debate years back, which was where there was no clarity by the fact whether principles of natural justice would be applicable to administrative orders or only to quasi-judicial orders. The feeling was that it would apply only to quasi-judicial orders. The court said no. The thin line of demarcation between quasi-judicial orders and administrative orders. In fact, so many times the administrative orders also lean towards it being a quasi-judicial order, because administrative, they have been given powers which they are required to function. So they have erased that thin line of demarcation between administrative orders and quasi-judicial orders, where natural justice has to be taken into consideration. The decision as far as income tax is concerned is 287 ITR page 91 Supreme Court Rajesh Kumar, where they said that there is no distinction. You have to follow the principles of natural justice, and that is what it is. Now, interestingly, friends, a question arose before the High Court whether when additional evidence is to be given and where the powers of enhancement are provided in Rule 46A, subrule 4, whether the principles of natural justice are required to be read in or not. The court said yes, they have to be read in unless specifically they have been kept out. Kerala High Court was required to deal with this in 234 Taxman 802 in 2015. CIT versus E.D. Berry and others. And the very same thing was followed in Mumbai Tribunal, it is an unreported decision in ITA number 5138 of 2015, pronounced in 2016, Avan Gidwani versus ACIT. So this is as far as the general principles that it has to be read into, unless specifically kept out statutorily by a specific provision that natural justice is not something that is going to avoid this kind of consequences. You have to go about this way. Now, friends, I will be dealing with certain incidents like in the case law as far as bias is concerned to demonstrate as to what bias is and the leading decision sometime of the Supreme Court, because this comes from the general law where Supreme Court has dealt with it and it has now been started to be applied in income tax proceedings. The first decision as far as personal bias is, it's a classical case of personal bias. AIR 1970 Supreme Court 150, A.K. Kariyappak versus Union of India. Now the facts were very, very interesting. Mr. Kariyappak was the acting chief conservator of forest. The chief conservator of forest was not there and he was acting in that post. So a committee was formed to choose the chief conservator of forest. And Mr. Kariyappak was a party to that committee. He was one of the members of that committee. Interestingly, for the choice of the chief conservator of forest, Mr. Kariyappa was also one of the candidates. Now see the anomaly of the situation. He was a committee member who is going to choose the chief conservator while he was a candidate as well. But very fairly, if I may state so, Mr. Kariyappa avoided being a party to the discussion when his turn came about, when his name was being discussed. So he accused himself. Very fair on his part, I must say that sarcastically. But when it came to the discussion of the names of his rivals, he was very much a party. Now this selection traveled to the civil election process, traveled to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court stated that, look here, there are 2 or 3 things we do not want to attribute anything to Mr. Kariyappa and we believe that he would be non-biased. But the very fact that he was a party and a member on that committee would have influenced the other members as well. That is one. He participated in the discussion whether his rival should be selected or not. That would also have an impact on the decision. And there is a complete conflict of duty when it comes to he himself choosing where he is the candidate. And that is the reason the court says the entire process is vitiated, and that is the reason we must do away with the process and the entire process has to be taken again. And I believe Mr. Kariyappa was required to relinquish his post as a member wherein he was himself available for selection. And that is where they said that violation of the principles of natural justice requires that there must not be a concept of bias at all. So this is a fantastic case as far as personal bias is concerned. There can be different kinds of personal biases. In fact, there can be a bias because of friendship, there can be a bias because of relationship, there can be a bias because of personal grievances or even enmity. And hence, the likelihood of bias. Now, why I am stating something which is very, very important. Does a party need to prove bias, or is it enough that likelihood of bias is proved? The courts have gone to the extent of taking this concept of principles of natural justice on bias is that the likelihood of bias itself would be good enough a case to quash the entire proceedings or the order where there is a likelihood of bias which is proved. And that is where recently, take for example, in Tata Motors challenge versus Government of West Bengal, where the Singur Land Rehabilitation and Development Act came into play, Justice Sumitra Paul, he himself in the case stated that I would be recusing myself because I know certain people who are associated with this litigation. And that is where he, because of the personal relation, the friendship that he enjoyed, or the relationship that he enjoyed with certain parties who were also a party to this litigation or somewhere connected to this litigation, he said, I would like to recuse myself, and avoided that personal bias to be creeping in and later on being quashed. And this is how I believe the judges must conduct themselves. With great respect, we find a lot of judges today who do conduct themselves in this fashion. And it is a very, very fortunate thing that these kind of people are elevated to the bench, and we are fortunate as a country to have these people. Another interesting concept is pecuniary bias. Now, bias means interest. I have stated that Justice Connor, Sandra Connor, recused herself from a matter where her husband was a shareholder of a company, where she was dealing with a company matter. This is exactly the opposite, and even the facts are that this judge, Mr. Cottenham, Justice Cottenham, was dealing with a company's matter where he himself was a shareholder. He did not recuse himself and decided in favor of the company. The matter went to the House of Lords, and Lord Campbell, in a fantastically worded short judgment, a paragraph I would love to read because of its language and the method that it conveys, which is good for the tribunals also today that we deal with, stated in these terms. I quote, "No one can suppose that Lord Cottenham could be in the remotest degree influenced by the interest that he had in the concern, that is the company. But, my lords, it is of last importance that the maxim that no man is to be a judge in his own cause be held to be sacred. And it is not confined to a case in which he is a party, but applies to a cause in which he has interest. This will be a lesson to all inferior tribunals to take care not only that in their decrees, that is the orders, they are not influenced but by their personal interest, but avoid the appearance of laboring under such influence." I unquote. What a wonderfully sent message, that it is not necessary to be biased, but you must not even look to be biased. That is the concept of bias which has to be upheld, and which was upheld and is being upheld by the judiciary. So we need to be very, very attentive to the fact that this is a very strong concept of principles of natural justice which can come into play as far as income tax is also concerned. Now, sir, Shivram sir, the next decision that I'm going to discuss, I personally believe, with the utmost sincerity to my command, that with respect, greatest respect to the Supreme Court, I believe the facts are something I find very what has been laid down, I find very difficult to agree to. But I say this with a great respect to the Supreme Court. I will discuss, because it is exactly in conflict with what I have been discussing just before this. 260 ITR page 1, Union of India versus Vipin Kumar Jain. Now, what were the facts? The facts were, this is official bias that I am discussing, another type of bias, official bias, and which may come across, and this is an income tax decision where this came into play. This gentleman was raided, and the officer who was heading the raid was eventually the assessing officer before whom the assessment was to be conducted. The matter was taken to the court, saying that the very same officer who had conducted the search happens to be the one who is going to assess me and process the assessment order and decide as to the taxability on whatever was according to him he has seized. And that is where an official bias has crept in. The Supreme Court stated that this is not a case of bias. An officer who has been in the search committee can always be an officer who is assessing you, and that is the reason, unless a bias is proved, unless the assessee is in a position to show that he had some personal interest in deciding in a particular way, there is no scope of personal bias being alleged, and this will not be a reason why the assessment would be quashed. Now, this is where I join issue and have some difficulty to accept this, that how is it possible for a person, have we ever come across a situation where an officer is a party to the search and he doesn't identify himself with what was searched, could give up that identification while he is deciding the assessment of the very same person he was searched? I, for one, in fact, going by what has been laid down with so many authorities, that it is not necessary to prove the bias. Even if there is an inclination that you could be biased, then you have to be away from this, and this is where the order ought to have been quashed. Here, what the court is saying, that you have to prove that there was bias. Now, this is something which is, degrading the concept of bias, and that is where, sir, I have an issue with this decision, that here the officer ought to have reclused himself, and it should have been decided by some independent officer who has no identification with the search at all. Now, this is my personal view, but it is a view which I believe, because the court itself later on stated that if you are in a position to prove bias of the officer, then it would have been one thing and we would have quashed the order. Now, is it necessary to prove the bias? That is what the issue over here is. In my say, with greatest respect, I personally believe, in my humble opinion, that it is not necessary to prove bias. Even if there is an inclination of some bias being proved, then the order becomes bad. Now, 2 or 3 situations I would like to indicate as to where a bias can come in. The assessment order is passed by the assessing officer, and an appeal is filed to the CIT appeals. The assessing officer gets promoted to CIT appeals, and coincidentally happens to be the very same CIT appeals who had passed the assessment order, and our hearing comes before him. Indicate as to why the notice has been given. Sufficient time must be given. The adequate time must be given. This, if it is a statutory requirement, then whatever is the requirement of the statute as far as giving a notice is concerned must be adhered to. Whatever material is being used against a person must be attached with the notice so that he has enough time to prepare his defense, or whatever evidence he wants to give to support a particular thing, to dislodge what is being stated in a notice. Because the show cause notice, if it does not have all these things, then it is not per se a notice at all. Unfortunately, Shivram sir, we have been seeing that nowadays we are only told that it is the investigative wing which has sent a report, but we never see that report. Now, it is an unfortunate part that why that report is not shared with us. So many times I believe that it would be a general report which would be stating that this gentleman has involved himself in penny stocks or take for a capital building. But the more important aspect is whether the SSC, he has stated anything about the SSC being involved as far as penny stocks is concerned, or capital building is concerned, or false capital gains is concerned. That is something that is never shared with us. Unfortunately, the entire environment today is such as if the principles of natural justice are to be given a go by, and call a dog by a bad name and shoot him. That is the attitude that is going on. I wish some superior courts lay down some guidelines as far as this is concerned, and all of us will have to make endeavor in this direction, Shivram sir, for the reason we might not be getting justice at a particular stage, which is the kind of scenario today, but never say the word die is going to take us somewhere. At least I believe the High Court or the Supreme Court eventually is going to say that this is not the way to go about things. You cannot be brushing aside the entire concept of natural justice. Cross-examinations are not given. In fact, certain case law lays down that because you have filed an affidavit of the very same person, he becomes your witness, and that is the reason cross-examination will not be given. Now, right of cross-examination is a very vital right which is snatched away these days. Unfortunately, that, with great respect, is not a right approach. That approach must come to an end. I believe the moment this environment changes, people will get back to their original thing of principles of natural justice being upheld. And if not done, it should be our endeavor as people litigating to see to it that it is done, and we must doggedly fight it out. So this is as far as notice is concerned. Sometimes, as far as notice is concerned, an approach by the authorities is taken that it is not going to serve any purpose. The courts have stated that it is not for the authority to decide whether it's going to serve any purpose or not, following the principles of natural justice. It is to be done, it is to be read into, and it is to be followed. The leading decision on this is AIR 1986 Supreme Court 180, Olga Tellis, where the courts, the authorities have stated it's not going to serve any purpose that a notice is to be given, but the court stated that you have to give up notice to even a trespasser on a property because he's to be heard. So don't decide for yourself whether it is necessary to give a notice or not. It is to be given. Another concept, and which is now codified in the form of a judgment, is GKN Driveshaft, 259 ITR page 19, where in fact, now it has been inbuilt in the form of a judgment. The principles of natural justice, Shivram sir did refer to him, the judgment in the note, that it lays down a very important principle. In fact, I would like to discuss this when we go to the writs, that how one must approach the writ as far as 148 is concerned. But here, in fact, the principle of natural justice laid down is that the copy of the reasons, the moment the return has been filed, must be given to the, in fact, it should be given. It is made mandatory that it should be given to the assessee, so the defense in the form of an objection is filed by the assessee at large. Now, this is a principle of natural justice which has been brought in, and this shows that how the courts would want the officers to approach it. Till GKN Driveshaft was there, Shivram sir would agree with me that we were required to go to the High Court to get the copy of the reasons. It was for the first time we used to see the face of the reasons recorded for reopening in the High Court in the form of an affidavit after the petition is filed. So virtually a person, to be putting it into terms, we were required to play blind and state that the assessee does not have reasons to believe, and the court would call for the reasons to believe. What a situation. And that is the reason this concept of GKN is a fantastic evolution which has streamlined things. The next decision is as far as, which I believe people at the original state, like practicing at the original state, the practitioners, advocates, as well as the chartered accountant will be facing, a cryptic noting on the order sheet would make the entire proceedings bad, because it does not indicate to the person who is being dealt with, who is being assessed, as to what is the requirement. So if the order sheet notings are also cryptic and it does not convey the right message, and if the person who was arguing the matter before the officer states that this is what was the indication and something else has come in the order, and if it turns out that the noting in the order sheet is not proper, then the proceedings will be quashed. Delhi High Court in 328 ITR 210 Maruti Suzuki India has stated the very same thing. So a cryptic order sheet would also amount to a non-notice. That is what is the logic of the court. It is filing of inaccurate particulars. In this situation, the assessing officer stated that I am of the opinion that it will have to be said that the assessee has concealed its income and or it has furnished inaccurate particulars. This was carried to the court that the charges are not clear. So that is no question of penalty being sustained. The court stated that yes, the charges are not clear. In fact, it has not been, there is no possibility for the assessee to come to know as to what are the charges that he is required to handle by the horns. And that is where the penalty was quashed. In fact, I go a step further. If the notice to 271(1)(c), the penalty notice is seen, it very clearly in apostrophe at the end in asterisk states, kindly delete the unnecessary words. meaning thereby whether there is concealment or filing of inaccurate particulars, whatever is the charge must be ticked, and the rest of the sentence, which may be stating inaccurate particulars if the charge is concealment, inaccurate particulars have to be scored out. Now, if that is not done, I personally, in my humble opinion, believe that would amount to a notice not being clear, and the notice not being clear, the entire proceedings will have to go, because I did not know as to what is the charge that I'm dealing with. If the notice is very, very clearly stating that kindly score off the unrequired sentence, then that must be followed. There is some sanctity to that. Now, if that is not done, should the order not go? In my humble opinion, the order should go on that basis itself. You don't need to go further, because what will happen is, say for example, you have attacked concealment and the officer is going to uphold the penalty on filing of inaccurate particulars. There will be completely different charges. And that is where I believe it need not be in the assessment order. It can be in the notice also. That is my humble opinion. But some fine day, we might have some judgment on that also. There are situations where the matter is transferred from one assessing officer to the charge of another assessing officer. Like in this decision of Himachal Pradesh in 273 CTR 296, Anand Chauhan, the assessing officer of Himachal Pradesh the charge was taken from him and the matter was transferred to Chandigarh. The SSC said that kindly give me a hearing, kindly tell me what is the reason why you are transferring me from Himachal Pradesh to Chandigarh. I would be required to travel over there with all the details regularly as to whenever there will be a date, and it will be a very inconvenient situation. What are the reasons that you have recorded for doing something of the sort? That was not done. And the order of transfer was passed under 127 and the matter was transferred to the officer at Chandigarh. This was challenged before the High Court, and the High Court stated that this cannot be done. Hearing has to be given, reasons have to be given. What was the material on the basis of which you reach that conclusion that it would not be all right to conduct the matter at Chandigarh and it would be better because it is connected to some other matter at Chandigarh? Suppose there is centralization taking place. All that has to be presented before the SSC so that he can deal with it and put his side of the view, and then only a call can be taken to transfer. It cannot be an arbitrary approach of transferring matters right, left and center like it was being done. And that is what the court said. And that is where the principle of natural justice of giving a hearing comes into play. Another one is right to know the evidence used against the SSC. Say for example, an SSC is not told as to what is the evidence that is being used against him. As I was sharing just now, we are told that there is a report of some investigation wing. We are never shown that report. Someone has given a statement that he's been dealing with penny stocks or capital creating. We are never given his statement. We ask for a cross-examination if the statement is given. We are not given a cross-examination. Now, this is where I believe that if that is not done, then the evidence is not presented before us, and we are expected to grapple in the dark and defend ourselves without that evidence given to us. So we are completely dealing with a hypothetical situation. We are fighting a ghost in a dark room. That is the situation. But that is in fact against the principles of natural justice, and we must avoid this. Dhakeshwari cotton has been stated by Sir, and that is the reason I would not deal with it. Another one is appropriate authority versus Vijay Kumar Sharma. The shares that have been purchased are dematerialized. Payments are made by check. They have been sold also. We have received it. We have paid capital gains. And the best part, in a recent matter which came to me, I asked the SSC to go and purchase it even further from the market. And he has purchased further stock also. And then too, we are being told it is penny stock, though it is being dealt on the stock exchange. Now, if the SEBI is the authority which deals with it, and then too it is being allowed to be traded, how can it be called a penny stock? The income tax department calling it a penny stock while the specialized body of SEBI allows it to be traded. Now, these are the kind of situations, and then too, I believe till a particular stage, I will not be succeeding. But anyway, so that's what it is. Sona Builders is once again where Sir did touch upon it.
Manish bhai,
Yes.
you can continue up to 1 to 1.5.
Mean that my overall talk you are saying?
No, just now, at 1 o'clock, we will have to conclude so that the Shivaram sir and
Okay, let me do one thing. I will only just touch on the principles of cross-examination. The lead
Okay.
petitions have been
And
touched.
You may touch the writ petition also.
Read,
So I will be touching. That is how I'm going to writ
Oh.
petition because it's a very important aspect.
okay, sir.
Okay, now let me go to writ petitions because I'll be sending the rest of the paper also as far as judgment is concerned within a week or so that it can be distributed to all the concerned people over here. Right? Now going to writ petitions. Sir, all of us will agree, and if needed to be brought to the notice, writ petitions as far as income tax is concerned is dominated by one writ, and it must be about 75% to 80% of the litigation would be challenging of show cause notices as far as reassessment notices is concerned. Shivaram sir would agree that we are flush with this kind of litigation as far as High Court is concerned. And that is where I would be completely failing in my duty if I do not state anything before going to the rest of the writs as far as 148 is concerned. I would like to share certain things for the benefit of everybody where we find some difficulty when we go in a writ petition. And that is where I have always stated that it is your baby at the lower stage. You are the ones who are going to create the base, and you are the ones who are going to deal with GK and drive shaft as to what has been laid down. I personally believe that your best foot forward has to come as a reply to the notice when reasons are given to you in the form of objections. Do not keep back anything. Approach and deal with the reasons completely. If there are case laws in your favor, state the case laws also. Because he will be required to deal with it in his objection disposal order. If that is not done, and sometimes you state a particular fact or submission in the writ petition, some court is, can come down on you and say that why did you not state this in your objections? Why did you not bring it to the notice of the assessing officer that this is what you are trying to say? If that is not done, then sometimes we may be hurt. And so many times I do notice that that is not done. And it becomes very, very difficult. And that is the reason I've taken certain sections as example. This is the first one that I'm dealing with is under section 11, where there was an application for accumulation that was to be made, and that application was made to the concerned authority. The concerned authority stated that this is a belated application for accumulation and rejected the application outright without giving a hearing. Now, this decision is 260 ITR page 595, Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology. No hearing was given. The matter traveled to the High Court, and the High Court was required to see as to under section 119(2) subclause B, whether the argument of the department was that there is nothing specified whereby a hearing is required to be given. And that is the reason we have examined all the details that were filed. We see that it is belated. It does not justify as to, because it is belated, no accumulation is to be granted. And that is how it will be taxed under the normal circumstances. The High Court says it has a lot of civil consequences. It has a direct consequence on the assessment to be made of the party. And that is where principles of natural justice of hearing must come in. And a hearing, if not granted, the order is bad. And it was quashed. The next one is an interesting decision, section 35. Once again, approval for registration as Scientific Research Association concerned with Amul Research and Development Association. All of us are aware that Amul does some fantastic work as far as animal husbandry is concerned, and further research to how to improve the yield of milk from milching animals is concerned. And this was an association which was doing scientific research on that. Since 1965, it was given the recognition of a scientific research association, but one fine day, they stopped responding to the applications that were made. The applications were continuously made, but there was neither rejection nor approval. In between, they rejected one of the applications, which was carried to the High Court. The High Court said that this is a non-speaking order, and it was sent back. But after that, once again, there was no dealing with it. One fine day, CBDT stated that you do not fulfill, you are not a scientific research, because the requirement is, into inverted commas, it should be meant solely for the purposes of scientific research. The word solely was the one on which they capitalized. They went to my memorandum of association, which talked about so many other objects, and that is the reason they said that it is not a sole object for scientific research and we will not grant this. It is an unreported decision. I'll be sending a copy thereof. Accepted as a scientific research association. Secondly, continuously you have been accepting the very same objects. There is no change in the object. Thirdly, the primary and the principal object is scientific research, and every other object is connected to the primary and the principal object. And that is the way it is to be looked at, and that is how we fulfill the requirement of it being a solely for the purpose of scientific research. This is where we went to the High Court, and the High Court looked into it and stated that yes, it has to be looked at it from this angle, and the authorities have completely missed out on seeing it from this angle and dislodged you. Since 1965, no objects have changed. So the principle of consistency is also one of the principles which have to be looked into, and the sole objects remain the same. And that is where, if it was dislodged, it is not correct. And that is what the holding was. The next decision is 127. We have taken one decision as far as 127, so I can avoid it to see that we don't waste on time as far as that is concerned. Now, under 132, so many people, as far as search is concerned, must be so many times labor under the impression that the search is not proper, that because there could not have been any reason to believe, and satisfaction could not have been reached on the basis of these facts. Likewise, one search recently was challenged in the High Court, 416 ITR 365, where the satisfaction itself was challenged that this is not proper. The jurisdiction acquired for the purposes of search is recording of satisfaction. If on these information, this satisfaction has been reached, it could not have been reached by a reasonable person, and that is how the search itself is bad. Now, what are the three requirements for a search? One, there are three requirements where there could be satisfaction. One, that notice or summons given and it is not being responded to. Second, or notice and summons given and they have fear that this man will not respond to it. Or third, they are in possession of some information that money, bullion, jewelry or other valuable article or thing is concerned, that the party will not offer it as income, or they might not offer it for income, have not offered or might not offer. Now, these are the three requirements. Any of one requirement has to be there for the purpose of reaching a conclusion of satisfaction that a search is necessary. In this case, the SSC had given a loan of 10 crores to a company. This was the only thing. So the first two requirements of the notice and the summons were not there at all. So the only requirement that could be there is the third requirement. The interesting fact is that the SSC had in fact shown it in his return. In his accounts, all these entries were there. In fact, the interest that was received from this party, the company was offered to tax and TDS was also deducted. So the court said that where is the question of an authority reaching any satisfaction that a search is required, and the search was quashed. In fact, the previous decision, one of the early decisions of the Gujarat High Court is 2003, 264 ITR, page 87, Gujarat, where the SLP has also been rejected. Now, very, very interesting decision whereby principles of natural justice comes into play, as far as Shivram sir was mentioning that CIT appeals, tribunals, the orders of the tribunals and all that. Here, in an excise matter, the order of the CIT appeals was challenged. The CIT appeals did not take into consideration the principal submission of the SSC and passed an order without dealing with it. The SSC, through a petition, went to the High Court and stated that, look here, sir, my principles of natural justice have not been followed while dealing with the matter. My submissions have not been dealt with, and that is where it infringes the principles of natural justice, and this order needs to go. While dealing with the situation, in fact, yesterday, Honorable Devani, Justice Devani was talking, and in fact, this decision, in this unreported decision of Wadilal Gases, Messrs. Wadilal Gases, is per her. And I would like to indicate that there are two decisions of the Supreme Court which came into play. One was Kranti Associates Private Limited, and the other one, which is the most telling one, was Whirlpool. Now, what does Whirlpool say is important? It says, it is settled legal position as held by the Register of Trademark Mumbai in AIR versus Whirlpool, AIR 1999 Supreme Court 22, that alternative remedy has been consistently held by the Supreme Court not to operate as a bar in at least three circumstances. First, where fundamental rights are infringed and when you go in a writ. But the second one is important, where there has been a violation of principles of natural justice, or where the order or proceedings are without jurisdiction. Now, this is where it gives you a scope of challenging the assessment order or the order of the CIT appeals or the order of the tribunal directly to the High Court, where principles of natural justice have not been followed. So even if a submission of yours, which is the principal submissions that what you believe, is not taken into consideration, then you can directly challenge it to the High Court and get the order quashed, instead of waiting for this lengthy proceedings of the appellate proceedings of you going to the tribunal, then going to the High Court in 260A, you trying to convince them there is a substantial question of law. All that is not required, because the larger benefit of 226, where the scope of the High Court is much larger and it can look into things and pass whatever order it feels like, can be taken advantage of. Now the next one, in fact, I would like to read out only 2 or 3 sentences from the leading decision in 41 ITR 191, Calcutta Discount Company, which indicates as to how the courts must approach and exercise the power of writs. I quote into inverted commas, where the Constitution confers on the High Court the power to give relief, it becomes the duty of the court to give such a relief in fit cases. And the court would be failing to perform their duty if relief was refused without adequate reasons. Now, this is the approach of a 5-judge constitutional bench in 41 ITR page 191, and the relevant quotation being at 195 in the headnote is to be taken into consideration whenever you are thinking about a writ. So kindly exercise your right of going in a writ wherever it is necessary, because it is a much better avenue. As far as 148 is concerned, so many of us are still not aware as to what is the scope of going in a writ. My request is, kindly approach whosoever you feel comfortable with, whoever is your counsel, to go and get it tested whether you should go in a writ petition or not. So many of us don't do that, and that is the reason, unfortunately, the clients suffer, you suffer, and we do not get favorable orders. I would skip 1 or 2 because I believe I'm approaching 1 o'clock. Bhaskar bhai, till what time could I be going?
You can continue. Still there is 10 minutes with you.
10 minutes. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Now, an interesting decision as far as 153C is concerned is a litigation which went to the High Court, that the jurisdiction acquired by the assessing officer itself is not proper because of the language that has been amended from 1/6/2015 in 153C. The language previously before 1/6/2015 was that any material at the time of the search must be belonging to someone else or belongs to someone else was the language. And that is where 153C was permitted to be taken. The language that was converted later on by an amendment from 1/6/2015 is related to. So from belonging to, it became related to. And the litigation that took place was that all the searches that had taken place were before 1/6/2015. And if the search had taken place before 1/6/2015, the date of the search is the most important aspect as to which is the section to be seen. Though certain things might have happened after 1/6/2015, the notices would have gone after 1/6/2015, but the date of the search being before 1/6/2015, the language of belonging to comes into play. So the CD, which was found at one of the leading builders and developers over here, which had all the details to do with the SSEs, different SSEs, did not belong to that SSE. It might be pertaining to that SSE, it might relate to that SSE, but the language belongs to did come into the play. And that is the reason the jurisdiction acquired by the officer to give a notice under 153C itself was bad, and the proceedings were quashed, and this is not required to be taken. This decision obviously at the moment is pending before the Honorable Supreme Court, and let us see what happens. But it is an interesting decision because of the interplay of the language which has been changed from 1/6/2015. And that is where on the language also, if it cannot belong to, because it belongs to the person who is raided or searched, it cannot belong to someone else. It is found at my place, it belongs to me. The presumption would be that. And that is where they stated that it does not belong to the SSEs whose details are mentioned over there. Now, another interesting aspect, garnishee sort of orders under 226 of the income tax, or 220 for that matter, for recoveries. Now, interestingly, two accounts were attached. One cash credit account and one loan account of the SSE were attached for the purposes of recovery of money. The SSE went to the High Court and stated that, sir, this is a cash credit account, one is a loan account of the bank, whereby I am a debtor to the bank. The bank is not a debtor to me. So where is the question of you approaching the bank to give money what the bank owed to me? In fact, I am owing it to the bank, and that is the reason this attachment is required to be lifted. This is a bad attachment. In fact, it is an order of attachment without application of mine, and that is where the court said that yes, where is the question of a debtor-creditor relation coming into play, where the bank owes some money when it is a cash credit account or a loan account. And that is where the court intervened and stated that this is not a good notice. It needs to be lifted. The attachment needs to be lifted. Another important decision is 226 ITR 270 Gujarat State Fertilizer and Chemicals, where, and this is a kind of situation where so many of us would be dealing with it, a situation arose that an assessment order was passed and quite a few additions were made. That assessment order was challenged to the CIT. Now coming to the present kind of situation, today 20% or now 15% is required to be paid for the purpose of taking a stay when a matter is pending before the first appellate authority. Here also 20% was asked for the SSE to be paid because it was pending in appeal. To the show cause notice, we stated that, sir, if the refunds which are otherwise required to be granted to me of the previous years are taken into consideration, also the fact that the very same issues which have been kept alive by this order have been allowed by the CIT as well as to the extent of the High Court in the previous years, additions have been made only to keep the situation and the issue alive. There is no question of my paying 20%, because if all this is done, then it would amount to a refund, in fact, that is required to be given to me. And so don't call upon me to pay 20%. The authorities did not budge that there is an addition, and that is the reason that 20% is to be paid. We went to the High Court and pointed this out. It was stated that there are certain circulars which state that this kind of an order cannot be passed of attachment or for that recovery. Sir, it is beyond the circular, and that is the reason the action is bad. Also for the fact that it defies logic that you are eventually doing it for the purpose of keeping the issue alive, and you want the person to pay taxes on an issue which is otherwise decided by the High Court or the higher court, that is the CIT appeals, higher authority in its favor. This cannot be done. So you can approach the court for this kind of matters as well. Sir, you did mention that there are two decisions where from an MA you have to approach the High Court directly. Yes, we do have a Gujarat High Court decision in Saroj Ceramics, which is 2014 42taxman.com 372, where in fact it does follow the Karnataka and the Bombay High Court decision. But sir, there is one facet to it, so that least that misunderstanding goes in. If an MA rejecting the MA order is passed, then it is to be gone directly to the High Court in a writ petition. But say for example, an MA on the order passed, there is some amendment made to the order passed by the tribunal. At least Gujarat High Court has stated in that situation, the order which has been passed applying the miscellaneous application order, there you will have to approach the High Court through the 260A route, because it will be an order in appeal and not an order in miscellaneous application. So there are two facets to it. Outright rejection in an MA, one will have to go in a writ. Applying the logic of the MA in assessment in the appellate proceedings, that will be have to take the route through the 260A proceedings, sir. Sir, I am approaching the end of the talk. In fact, the last one is revision orders can also be challenged. In fact, recently we came across and I filed a writ petition whereby I do not know why these kind of things are required to be done. Unfortunately, 29 days of delay, where so much evidence as far as medical reports and everything are concerned, 29 days of delay was not condoned by the CIT in 264, and the revision proceedings were quashed. I was required to be in the High Court. It is still pending, but I believe 29 days of delay with so much evidence is bound to go through, bound to sail through, and this can be approached. Now, friends, let's end on a lighter note, because when I was preparing to do with litigation, one thought on a lighter note came was, and the joke goes this wise: a leading engineer and a very popular engineer passed away. So instead of his doing so good things, by mistake, he was taken to hell instead of going to heaven. And on reaching hell, he realized that it is really hell. I need to do a lot of things. So he started using his engineering skills and laid down elevators, escalators, put in the air conditioning in order. Everything was fantastic, hunky-dory situation. People were having a great time. God one fine day said that there is no complaint from Satan. What is going on? Let me call him. So he calls Satan and says, how are things? He says, wonderful. This engineer that we have is doing a wonderful job, and we are very happy with him. God says, which engineer? He says, this one. God thunders. You send the engineer over here. He was not supposed to be in hell. He was supposed to be in heaven. If you don't do that, I will file a writ and sue you. That is what God said. And the reply was the fantastic one. Really? And where do you think you will get a lawyer from? All of them are here in hell. So that is what the situation is. Friends, I tell my friends that, one fine day, all of us are going to be together and having the same banters that we have in the corridors of the High Court and the tribunal. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. I do not know whether I was long or short, but I only wish that I was informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, now, after this lecture, we would request our today's chairman, Dr. K. Shivaram, to give his expert comment on the lecture, sir. Shivaram, sir, you need to unmute yourself. Sir, yes, sir.
In fact, I have nothing to comment. Manish, you have done excellent work.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, that we went with, the few days back, we had a similar lecture, of course, that was reassessment and natural justice.
Oh, really?
That one of webinar, I was the chairman for that.
All right, sir.
And I made reference to that, that you worked out certain figures, reported case law, we found 80% of the matters only were reassessment.
True, sir. True. True.
And then we found in the 20, another 10% is on your recovery.
True.
In fact, other is only that you are
Limit.
10%, other like 273A, 264, all other. That shows that as you rightly pointed out, your reassessment. In fact, that many times in Mumbai Court we come across, like if you, as you rightly pointed out, that if you don't put proper explanation to the recorded reasons, and you don't put all that case laws also, especially judicial high court, maybe in your favor. The high court, in some of the cases, Bombay court taken the stand. Oh, you not pointed out all these. Now you cannot improve your case.
Right.
So that is the reason that, as a consultant, possibly I think we should put all these and all the objection, including the satisfaction also, like 151, they taken or not taken. And according to me, I'll advise them to get the copy of your order sheet also.
That's
All
right.
this will help that you find a good case for your reassessment is concerned. And of course, you have discussed conceptually all the issues, and we'll be happy if we can, give us the note on the little note, so that those who are not able to attend today, they will also get benefit of that. In
I will
fact,
do that, sir.
I myself benefited so many issues from your. That is very, very nice of you. That is one. And as regard, that as you rightly pointed out, bias, we had one accountant member, whenever search matter is to come, he used to tell us which year the search action. Then we never used to understand what is that. No, at that I owe the DDI. If I am a DDI, no, I may not be the party to your order, but if I am DDI, my mind may be biased. I don't want to hear the matter.
How nice. How nice.
We had a very nice members like that. In Bombay High Court, we used to have some judges. Suppose husband is holding only 50 shares. They said, no, we don't want to hear this matter. Company's 50 shares only, not like Tata. 50 shares, no, I don't want to hear. In fact, one of the judges we called for one of the lectures. He said, where you are holding? We said, we are holding such and such hotel. He said, let me find out whether any of these matters are handled or likely to handle. If that is the case, I don't want to come to that hotel at all. It is only some of the judges, they are very, very good. That's why our judiciary, we are able to as you rightly pointed out, all these, show cause notice and everything, basic principles. And if all the consultant, the other to this, I think first principle, forget all the case laws. Case laws will come afterwards. I think most of the case become very easy for us. And of course, there may be some questions as the time is out. I think we're not able to answer, I think. Thank you very much, Manish. In fact, very nice of you, and you elaborately discuss all the issues, including the risks, and also, of course, we can go on for the whole day. That is a different point altogether. And conceptually, we have covered everything. Under natural justice, we have covered. RIT also, we have covered everything. Thank you once again. In fact, I must say that your Vedjo must be very happy to hear you.
Yes.
And they you once again to some more meeting on this. Thank you, Manish, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. And as we are getting the good comments in the comment box also, I'm going to the questions asked in the chat box. Sir, should I read it for you?
Please,
I will
please.
be reading.
Keep it all that. Yes, Manish can answer, please.
Yeah, first question is, sir.
You can also come in, sir. Please.
Yeah.
Both of us would be better on drinks.
Yeah.
They're coming from you, sir. They would be more, encouraged about the thing.
So the first question in the chat box is that can any law exclude specifically the right of natural justice of hearing? If it is there in the law at present, please mention it. And if yes, then it is not unconstitutional to specify so.
In fact, the Supreme Court has specifically stated that as to where the statute has specifically taken out the concept of natural justice, then it has to be adhered to. And it is not for the courts to legislate, and it is for the legislature to put that in. And there has to be some logic to it. Undoubtedly, take for example, if it is violating some fundamental rights, then that has to be a challenge, constitutional challenge to getting it struck down. Otherwise, if the statute lays down that concepts of natural justice are not required to be coming into play as far as things are concerned in this situation, then they have been taken out. There are direct case laws to it. In my write-up, if need be, I'll be covering them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any
Thank
comments, sir? Sivaram, sir?
No, he's perfect right. That our accusation, chapter 20C, when the matter came Supreme Court, there's no specific question on the in natural justice opportunity hearing. Supreme Court said that no, though it is not there, still you have to give them hearing of opportunity. That is one of the Gautam case.
CB Gautam, sir. CB Gautam.
That we are referring.
So there has to be a specific taking out of the natural justice concept.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you. So the next question is how principles of natural justice are applicable to additional evidence under Rule 46A, particularly when appellant is not able to satisfy the compliance of sub-rule A, B, C.
Now the thing is, see, as far as recently I had an opportunity of dealing with this kind of a situation. It reminds me of the latest decision of the Supreme Court where in penalty proceedings, for example, there were certain evidences that were given as far as 68 is concerned for the purpose of quashing the penalty. And the CIT appeals took into consideration that evidence. The matter as far as the addition is concerned in quantum was pending before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court took clue from the fact that evidence was given later and admitted by the fact that to delete the penalty and had an impact on the quantum proceedings. Now that itself is a great indicator as to how additional evidence is required to be dealt with. Principles of natural justice as far as, say for example, in a 68 matter, the one which I am just talking about, so many times the cash creditors are not going to come forward initially. They would not be agreeable that, look here, I have given you money in your difficult times. You have repaid back that money and now you want me to go and appear before the authorities? That's not going to happen. It takes time to convince. In the meantime, assessment order might be passed. CIT appeals, for the first time, evidence is given before the tribunal. So the tribunal has to have a holistic approach, and that is where the principles of natural justice will come in. That is what. So you can always plead that. I have discussed one decision where the Bombay tribunal talked about the power of enhancement of the CIT appeals and all that. And in Rule 46A, sub-rule 4, there is no specification of rules of principles of natural justice. Tribunal said that you have to read into. The very same concept will come in.
Let me supplement, Manish, only.
Yeah, please.
That normally, whenever you file appeal to the state appeal, we always advise them to take the first, you write that principle natural is violated, not given sufficient opportunity.
That's
That
right.
help you to, whenever you want to put some additional evidence, you've taken the specific ground, not given sufficient opportunity. That will help you to take that.
True.
And I think
True.
one case of even Ahmedabad, it went up to Supreme Court. In Supreme Court, they have given certain evidence, and Supreme Court admitted and set aside to the tribunal to decide.
True.
In fact, I don't recollect just now the case law is concerned. That's why that even Bombay High Court 151 ITR, the additional evidence filed before the state appeal, Bombay High Court, he must admit. So that is how the courts have taken the view, additional evidence is concerned. Thank you.
Because the
Thank you.
entire
So the
concept,
next,
the entire concept is to do justice.
Yes, you are
The
right.
approach has to be justice oriented.
Yes, you are
And as rightly mentioned by Shriram sir, Article 265 talks about taxing the correct income. The income has to be taxed. Hypothetical things don't have to be taxed. So if that helps you in taxing only the income, the approach has to be justice oriented.
thank you. Sir, the next question is CIT bound to restore his order of dismissal of appeal before due adjourned date?
I'm sorry.
Sir, again I'm reading. Am I audible, sir? There is
Yeah,
some
you're
network
audible.
issue.
Please, you're audible.
Yeah. So the question is CIT appeal bound to restore his order of dismissal of appeal before due adjourned date? If you can, I think.
If I understand the question, has the CIT appeals dismissed before the due date of hearing?
Yes, that is there.
That is bound to be there because that means no effective hearing has been given. It has to be done. The moment it is brought to his notice that the notice date was, say for example, today we are on 14th, it is on 17th, and on 16th he passes an order saying that you had not appeared, and he passes an order on merits or whatever. It's an order without hearing. So it does not justify this notice that has been sent. As I specifically stated in the notice discussion, it has to specify things very clearly. What is the date of hearing? Which is the place of hearing? What is the issues in the show cause notice that I am required to deal with? All that will be required to be taken into account. If it is not on that same day and it is on an earlier day, it has to be restored. Because effectively, audi alteram partem does not come into play.
And Manish, one more thing, that suppose the particular date is fixed 10th of the March, okay?
Correct, sir.
And if you pass the order also 10th, the courts have taken that is bad in law. If she cannot pass on the 10th itself, she will be at the end of the day. That is how
That's right. True.
Sir, next question is from a retired IRS, Mr. M.G. Kodadaran. Sir, the question is, sir, can we not think of inducting a legal person along with an executive to act as original authority stage and first appeal stage so as the requirements of natural justice could be met? The executives are always biased and therefore the stated goal of principle of natural justice are lost at the first stage itself.
In fact, I believe that in their training school, they do have this kind of seminars and they do have this kind of chapters and papers which are discussed. In fact, during my research of natural justice, I came across a paper written by someone in their training school for excise purposes. So the officers who are supposed to be trained under the excise law, who go there, they were told extensively about the kind of things to be taken care of as far as natural justice is concerned. If I may share a very surprising thing, in the excise law, there is a stream of law which has developed whereby the officer who has seized certain things, who has taken certain statements, the sitting officer, excise officer, can be called upon for examination by the SSC's council, and that examination or cross-examination has to be granted. That are the case laws as far as excise tribunal is concerned. That kind of advancement has not taken place in income tax. So I believe it's a very good suggestion if it is not there in income tax, but my firm belief is that it is bound to be there. So many times, Shivram sir, we are invited to go and talk to officers and all that. So I believe that kind of training is bound to be there. But if it is not there, this is a very valid suggestion.
Thank you, sir. So there is a person who has raised hand, Mr. Vijay Chadda. Vijay, you are on. Sir,
let me just clarify.
Wait, please. Chaddaji, wait, please. Yes, sir. Sivaram, sir, please.
In fact, the officers, we are attending many of their seminars. We are training them. In fact, we suggest to this extent, all the state appeals, who are hearing, they should be made compulsory as a DRs at least for the 1 year. If they work as a DRs at least for the 1 year, whole approach of the state appeals will change. If that is the case, then not only that, when officers also should come and see at the proceeding before the High Court or before the tribunal, then possibly the entire approach will change. That is what board level they have to take the decision. They have to implement it. Thank you very much.
In fact, sir, sometime back when I was talking in Baroda, the Chief Commissioner of Baroda had given me a call that I would want all CIT appeals Baroda to be present as well as the talk, so that whatever is your angle to things can be shared and something can be implemented. So this kind of an approach is necessary. In fact, I entirely agree with you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Chadda is there. Yeah, please.
Yes,
sir. My query with fact from 1418, like other sections, that the disallowance under section ATP, if the return is belated, not filed in time, one of the SSC filed the return belated in section 143.1. All the disallowance has been made in the case where the principles of natural justice will apply.
It is a belated return. That is what it
is.
And what does the section state that it cannot?
Like ATP other section, all the section parallel section has been made ATP also. 143.1.
What I would suggest is that as far as writ is concerned, I will just take a few minutes as far as that is concerned. If in case you believe that it is required to be gone in a writ petition, because that might be the only place you would be getting justice, then certain things must be collected as to why you were, why was it belated? Was there some reason, unforeseen reason, whereby that it happened late? You were virtually not in a position to file on time, and that is the reason, you have to approach the authorities to take into consideration the belated returns also.
Sir, it was the first year amendment. The SSC was not knowing. Only the council who filed the return
I appreciate
has not enlightened him.
So that is where all this would be required to be put in the form of a writ and stated that these were the reasons why you had fallen late, and that is the reason justice requires that this should be considered. There were no malefides that were involved, because if there is a concept of lacking, you have an instrumental in seeing that it was not filed in time, then the court is not going to help you. But if you are in a position to show that there was nothing that could be done, and that is the reason there was a delay, then the courts might be in a position to help you. So it might be a case whereby you might have to go in a writ petition.
Thank you. Sir, Bhaskar Patel, sir, we are nearing the time. Should I?
Can I supplement? They can go under,
Yes.
board they can go. If they are able to show, Manish, that they are having the reasonable cost, filing the affidavit or whatever it may be, they can oppose the board has the power to condone that.
119 would give that power to go there.
That board has the power.
After that, if it does not grant it, then a petition can be.
That will be more appropriate. That may help them, preparation, all these affidavit.
That's right.
Otherwise, court will say that you are have power, why can't you go there?
Why can't you go to the board?
Yes.
First go to the board and then go over here.
That will be.
If it does not exercise its power.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Manish bhai,
Yeah.
I personally, on behalf of West Zone, would like to request you to provide us this paper to be published in our journal, published by the AFTP, so that it can be benefited by all the members of our AFTP.
I'll do that. But to give me some time, I'll definitely send it over to you, Bhaskar.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Patel, sir, should I move to the word of thanks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of thanks. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request NEC member of AIFTP, Mr. Bharat Swami, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Bhavya Bhai. I wish a very good afternoon to the respected President of AIFTP, Advocate Nikita Badeka ji, Secretary General Samir Bhai Jani, all past President and senior member of AIFTP, Chairman of West Zone Bhaskar Bhai Patel, Honorary Secretary Kuntal Bhai Parikh, Chairman of Webinar, Senior Advocate K. Shivram Sir, Speaker Advocate Manish Bhai Shah, and all participants of today's webinar. I, Bharat Swami, the NEC member of AIFTP, regards this as an honor and privilege of extended vote of thanks on this occasion. Once a great man said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. According to Saint Ambrose, no duty is more urgent than that of returning the thanks. So I am delighted to have been given the pleasant duty of delivering the vote of thanks. On behalf of the AIFTP and all the participants, I would like to thank our respected Chairman, Senior Advocate K. Shivram Sir, who graced us with this presence and guidance. Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your word of wisdom. I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Advocate Mr. Manish Bhai Shah, for making excellent presentation on subject and making this webinar interesting and meaningful. I would like to express our profound gratitude to our President, Secretary, Chairman of West Zone, Honorary Secretary of West Zone, and our moderator, Bhavya Bhai Popat. I am happy to express vote of thanks to our all participants who have made this webinar grand success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manish. Okay.
So much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, Nikita.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very nice.
With the permission, can I end the
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah. Yes.
Please
Yes.
should.